Okay, so Joel, a big change obviously in this space is the greenhouse.
Yeah.
So previously, in our previous visit last year and the previous year before that, we had the greenhouse up at the top of the garden.
Yeah.
Why has it come down here?
For me, it was dominating the garden. It was what you could see from all around, but also it was sinking at one corner.
Right.
And while the Rhino greenhouse is possibly the only greenhouse that could go directly on soil, this was quite alarming how much it was sinking in one corner. So I had to do something, and I thought, well, let's move it down here. This is an area of the garden that hasn't been used before for anything. It's definitely shadier, but that's not a bad thing when it's impossible to keep the temperatures below 40.
Sure.
And that has been a problem for a lot of plants. It may be that the shade is an issue in the winter months. I have a couple of ideas to rectify that. LED technology is quite cheap these days.
Definitely.
You can fit it to the underside of shelves, and that's one option. But we'll see how it goes. At the moment, the plants seem to be loving the fact that they're out of the direct sun, and the plants that are in here are thriving already.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a closer look.
Yeah.
So we're in the greenhouse now, and I think it's a great use of space, as you said, using this lower area. I think I've got a photograph which I'll put on screen now from a previous visit to show what this area looked like.
Yeah.
But look how many plants you've got in this space. So have a look at some of the highlights.
Sure, yeah, it's usually a lot fuller, but of course many of the plants are outside where they would prefer to be in the weather that we've got. But I'm compulsive at propagating things from seed, and I do grow a lot of succulents. When you grow from seed, you have a lot of duplicates as well, and I probably set out to have a plant or two of something, and I suppose over the years I've got better at growing things from seed, and that can be a curse because you might want one or two, but you've got 20 or something, and what do you do with them all, you know? I mean, down here we've got some opuntias that haven't yet been in the garden. I'll have to remind myself what they are called. Trichophora, actually, that particular one. I'm sure some of the others are. There's Whippley somewhere as well, and obviously the aim is that they will be grown outside. I have some seedlings here of Aloe striatula, and that was the Variegated version, and they've grown
really nice, aren't
really
they?
healthy. Yeah. Hopefully they should have this bluer foliage, and there's a chance that Variegated striatula was the pollen parent, so we might have something in between, but hopefully not. Agave seedlings around here, largely the result of a couple of agaves that flowered for me, and if I just show you one of these, this would be Agave Wakamahi, which is a really good agave actually for the UK garden. Wakamahi being the name of a Native American tribe actually, who probably ate the heart of this plant.
Right, okay.
So that's a seedling of a plant that flowered. Similarly, we have some rather nice agaves here. Again, a plant that flowered. It was a hybrid between Lophantha and Obscura, and its kind of progeny are all a little bit different from each other. That's got a nice stripe, and it's got an interesting sheen.
Nice teeth on it as well, yeah.
Absolutely, with a red teeth on the plant. I do have a sibling of the one that flowered in the garden at the top, and it's hidden at the moment behind a Béchonnière. It's difficult to see, but I really ought to move it because it's such a nice plant.
This one's caught my eye. This is looking very nice.
Agave Fourcroides. Not one that I would specifically grow for the UK garden. I think I was sent some seeds, and they just came up in numbers, so I've ended up with plants. You see, that was beautiful. Offsetting out of the
offsetting from the base, and also got this sort of purplish blush underneath there. It's really nice.
Yeah. I mentioned Aloe pratensis, and it's interesting that some of the plants are now 5 years of old age, but they're not really putting on any size. And it's possible that this isn't the real deal. It may not be. It's possible. I mean, they're healthy, small plants, but at 3 and 5 years of age, I'd expect them to be a bit bigger. Than that.
So how do you manage in terms of watering down here, and how much attention do these plants need?
It's a different requirement in the height of a summer that we're having to what it would be in the month of April. Just lately, the hose pipe and everything just gets sprayed, and if it's puddling in the trays, it'll be gone in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
I'm happy that the plants, you pick up a plant, you can feel there's a bit of weight in the pot, and that's always a good indicator as to how dry or otherwise the compost in the pot is. It's been such a struggle this year, but now this greenhouse has been moved, these plants are out of the glaring direct sun. I'm finding I'm getting healthier growth. The aeoniums are starting to wake up a little bit because, of course, they go summer dormant in these temperatures. But if it was the month of April, I have very small watering cans, and I'm very careful with how I water the plants. I do use cacti feed. I'm hopefully not advertising, but this kind of thing is water soluble and is fine for the cacti and succulents. It's a very low nitrogen content for cacti and succulents. I'm actually still doing my research, but I'd like to start using something like Osmocote in the compost mix. And plants, particularly, say, for instance, Aloe polyphylla, I think they would appreciate that Osmocote in the growth medium. They like the drainage, but it's generally nutrient poor, the compost.
Yeah. So how often do you feed, and when do you feed in the year?
Yeah, I mean, some people would say that agaves, for instance, would probably need no more than 2 feeds in a year, and I might go to 3 or 4, but really we're at the point in time now, it's mid-August, probably now's the time to give them their last feed of the year.
Yeah.
And certainly by the end of August, I'd be saying, no more feed for those plants. And in terms of frequency of watering, it's probably once a week at the moment for these plants, but higher up the garden, even outside, succulents have really suffered this year. It's always a problem acclimatising them to the full sun.
Yes.
And a lot of my plants just haven't been moved out into full sun. They haven't needed to, really, but ordinarily I would say get them into full sun over a matter of weeks, but they've been absolutely fine without. And I have a lot of cacti, but the cacti that I grow are going to be good subjects for the outdoors. So this one here is a Serencia brushii. It's from seed that was collected at very high elevations where the plants would encounter snow and ice, and that's the idea with these plants. This here would be an Echinocerius, I believe. Yep, it's a hybrid between Stramineus and Reichenbachii. Not everybody's cup of tea, cacti, of course. The flowers are absolutely beautiful.
Yes,
huge pink flowers on this particular one, and it just happens to be 2 species of Echinocerius that have done really well for me, and I have these planted out in the garden, and they flower every year, and the flowers are spectacular. They really are. I do get distracted by variegated agaves, and this one is Excelsior. I don't know if you can see that one, but it's...
That's a beauty, that one.
Yeah, it gets into a very nice plant, that particular one. And Aloe fosteri, I think that was a substitute. I bought seed and it arrived as a substitute, and I don't think it's got any real hardiness. We've got a Puntia shearii, a rooted clado that's rooting there. Lots of puyas in this corner that you can't see at the moment, but when you grow puyas from seed, you always end up with 20 or 30 plants. They are quite vicious. This particular one is a hybrid that I bought in the souvenir shop at Tresco, Abbey Garden on the Scilly Isles 2 years ago, and it's a hybrid, but it's been since named Puya ventnorensis.
Right.
The same hybrid occurs in Ventnor Botanical Garden on the Isle of Wight, and it's believed to be a hybrid between, I think, probably Chilensis and Alpestris,
right,
or the form of Alpestris that used to be known as Bertroniana, or Bertroniana. The plan for those Puyas is they'll be planted out in the garden, protected like succulents. Hardiness is -6, but I think that can be extended with a shelter to cover them. they'll be planted where they won't snag anybody's ankles, and hopefully they'll get to a good size and flower. But it was great to see them on the Scilly Isles, along with other bromeliads that are pretty much on the borderline of hardiness. But I think Puyas in particular do have potential for the UK garden, even this far north.
Excellent. I mean, that's exciting to see how they develop and grow outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been great to look at this space. Obviously, this greenhouse was up the garden. Should we have a look at that area of the garden and
sure.
the plans for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.